Hello students. Today our online class is on Ruskin Bond's short story The Eyes Have It. But before going to the story, I shall introduce you in brief about Ruskin Bond, the setting of the story, the characters, the narrative technique, the literary device used in the story, the title of the story, and the features which have made this story an ideal short story. Ruskin Bond is an Anglo-Indian author. His parents were British by birth, but he is an Indian by birth. He was born in Kasauli on 19th May in 1934. He is still living with us. He is a living legend. He is still living with us at Uttarakhand. The setting of the story is very simple. The entire event takes place on a train compartment. Ruskin Bond uses here the first person narrative technique. He tells the entire story about his own experience to his encounter or to his meeting to a girl in a train compartment. He also expresses his thoughts, feelings, loneliness in this encounter. The characters which we find in the story are three in number. The first character is the narrator author. Here we are introduced with this character as a traveler who is going to Dehra. He is blind. The next character which appears in the story is the girl. She is also blind. She is going to Saharanpur. The third character and the last is a fellow passenger. He is the most important character in the structure or about the event of the story, because this third character reveals both to the readers and the narrator about the blindness of the girl. The literary device which Ruskin Bond uses in the story is situational irony. You know, irony is just the opposite of the events which are taking at surface level and the reality. In a situational irony, the effects of an event are just the opposite of the expectation. Now, leaving the definitions, if I give you an example, it will be helpful for you to understand what is situational irony. Suppose there will come a storm and rain after a few seconds, after a few minutes. But then a person came outside from his house and told, "What a nice day." But after a few minutes, it starts to rain. Then that person becomes a victim of situational irony. Now in this story, we shall find that the narrator seems that the girl was with normal eyesight. But later he comes to know that that girl is also blind like himself. Now the title of the story, it is very important. In our textbook, the title is given as The Eyes Have It. Have you noticed? It is almost like a brief sentence, whatever may be. But this story, when published earlier in other editions, it was entitled as The Eyes Are Not Here, The Girl in the Train, etc. But this title, The Eyes Have It, is very appropriate. What does the eyes have? Eyes, one of our five sense organs, have sight. So, according to the title, the three characters whom we find in the story have eyesight. But I have just told you the two characters of them, the narrator author and the girl, are blind. Then how can they have eyesight? Yes, they have inner eyesight. The author says that they have inner eyesight, and this eyesight depends on their remaining sense organs. For this reason, the narrator can see the beauty of the girl, and the girl can see the beauty of Mussoorie in October. And the third character, he has the normal eyesight like others. Now about the qualities of short story. As a short story, the eyes have only 3 characters. This limited number of characters are very important for a short story. Besides, this story is of very brief length. One can read this story for one go. Besides, this story revolves round on a brief encounter between the narrator author and a girl. Now we shall enter to the text of the story. Students, you should take your textbook. The first paragraph. I had the train compartment to myself up to Rohana. Then a girl got in. This adjective at first gives us the information that Ruskin Bond uses here the first person narrative technique. He says he had the possession of the train compartment in which he was traveling only to himself. For which place? Up to Rohana. Then after this, what happened? After this, after reaching Rohana, a girl got in. A girl came to his compartment. The couple who saw her off were probably her parents. When someone travels to another place, his or her family members come to see off or to bid farewell. Likewise, in this event, a couple came to saw off or bid farewell to that girl. The author does not know them, so he assumes those couple will be her parents, the father and mother of the girl. As he is not confirmed about the identity of her parents, so the author uses the term probably or possibly, that means might be. They seemed very anxious about her comfort. They, the parents of the girl, appeared to be very anxious, very worried about her comfort. Comfort is generally used for physical comfort, but Ruskin Bond here uses the term comfort both physically and mentally. That means Ruskin Bond says her parents appear to be very worried about the easiness of the girl, and the woman gave the girl detailed instructions as to where to keep her things, when not to lean out of the windows, and how to avoid speaking to strangers. This particular part of the sentence, the women gave the girl detailed instructions, is, I think, very important for your question in the board exam. Because I shall tell you about the question pattern later. Now, the meaning of the term detailed. Detailed means elaborate. Elaborate. With every nuts and cells. Instructions. Instructions or advices or directions. The woman, probably the mother of the girl, gave her every detailed instruction as to, that means about, three things. Which are these? Where to keep her things or keep her luggage. Number 2, when not to lean out of the windows. That means bend down of windows. And how to avoid, number 3, and how to avoid speaking to strangers. The mother advised her daughter not to speak to the strangers or unknown person. This part of the sentence is important because there may come question why her mother told the instructions in detail and which were those instructions. Which were those instructions. Now the next paragraph. They called their goodbyes. Then both of them told goodbyes or wished farewells. And the train pulled out of the station. Generally, pull out means to snatch something. But here, pulled out means withdraw or leave. Then the train left the station. As I was totally blind at that time, the narrator says, at that time when he was traveling in such situation to the train, then he was totally blind. This sentence gives two possibilities. Firstly, it might be that the author was not at first, earlier, not at first blind totally, and later he has recovered his blindness. We don't know this, but it seems from the information of the author that he was then totally blind. And what are the characteristics of total blindness? My eyes sensitive only to light and darkness. It is very true. The persons which are totally blind, they can at least feel vague light even within complete brightness, and they can feel the darkness in the entire darkness. I was unable to tell what the girl looked like. It's quite natural. When a person appears before us, we look at that person's, and then what comes before us? The physical or outward appearance of that person. It is quite natural. But as the narrator was then totally blind, so he regrets that he cannot assume the appearance of that girl. But I knew she wore slippers from the way they slapped against her heels. From sound he apprehends that the girl must have put on slippers or loose sandals or flip-flop type shoes. From which he has assumed this? From the way they slapped. or they striked, or they made sound by hitting on the ground against her heels, against the back part of the human foot. Ruskin Bond assumes everything from the sound of the slapping sound of her heels that the girl might put on slippers. Third paragraph. It would take me some time to discover something about her looks, and perhaps I never would. The beginning word of the third paragraph is it. This it is related to the earlier paragraph. It refers to his intention to know the physical appearance of the girl. It would take him some time, a few time, to discover or to find out something about her looks, about the appearance, looks or appearance of the girl, and he again feels suspicious about himself. So he says, perhaps I never would, perhaps, possibly, it would never be possible for me to find out her physical appearance. But I liked the sound of her voice and even the sound of her slippers. Are you going to all the way to Dehra? I asked. The narrator says he asked the girl whether she was going to Dehra all the way. That means the last stoppage of the train. I must have been sitting in a dark corner. Now Ruskin Bond thinks from the reaction of the girl for his question that he might have been sitting in the dark corner of the train because my voice, as his voice startled her, made her astonished. She gave a little exclamation and said, then the girl made a little sound of surprise and then said, I didn't know anyone else was there. Then the girl said, she had no idea about anyone else sitting in that compartment, in that place. The answer of this girl is quite surprising. She got in the train, there was sitting the narrator, but she has not noticed anyone. It is surprising, but it might be that. Well, then the narrator says, well, or thinks, the narrator author thinks, well, it often happens that, it sometimes, often, sometimes, or very often, occurs that people with good eyesight, the persons who have the ability to see completely, fail to see, become unable to see what is right in front of them, what is before them. In front of them means before them. They have too much to take in. Why? Because they observe so many things, I suppose. Why they fail? Because they think so many things. Whereas, in contrast to this, people who cannot see or see very little, the author says, in contrast to those people who have good eyesight, the people who have little eyesight or cannot see at all, that means who are blind, have to take in only the essentials, basic needs of them. Whatever registers, whatever they can notice, most tellingly on their remaining senses, and they can look at anything or they can observe anything by the help of their other sense organs. Then the author says, I didn't see you either, I said, but I heard you come. The author says he also had not seen the girl, but he had only heard that girl to come in. By saying this, the author thinks, I wondered if I would be able to prevent her from discovering that I was blind. Now, this intention of the author or the blind person to hide or to conceal their blindness appears in the story. Earlier, when the story was written, then in our society, it was a superstitious belief that the blind or the persons who cannot hear have got curse, and so they are very looked down upon by other people of the society. So they wanted to conceal their blindness or their disability. So and due to the sympathy of Ruskin Bond to them, here Ruskin Bond says that the narrator author wondered, became surprised, if he would be able to prevent or to stop or to cheat the girl from discovering or to finding out that he was blind. That means he had no eyesight. Provided I keep to my seat, I thought it should be too difficult. The author thinks himself, provided, that means if he was able to keep by sitting on his seat, then it was not be possible for the girl to find out his blindness. Then the girl said, I am getting off at Saharanpur. My aunt is meeting me there. She is getting off, or she will go to Saharanpur. Saharanpur is a place which was named after a Sufist, a Sufi saint whose name was Shah Harun. And Saharanpur is famous even now for mangoes and basmati rice. She further informs that her aunt is meeting her there. That means she is going to the house of her uncle and aunt. Then the author becomes quite humorous and quite courageous. And then he says, then I had better not get too familiar, I replied. Then the author says, as she is going to meet her uncle and especially aunt, so the author, it will be safe for the author not to get too close in conversation to the girl or become too friendly to the girl. Why? Aunts are usually formidable creatures. It is a humorous comment. Creatures. Creatures means generally animals, but here creatures refer to the persons. Formidable. Formidable means the persons whose attitude cause fear to others due to the power of guardianship or overprotective attitude. Then she asked, where are you going? Here we find the girl is also engaged in conversation to the author. The author answers to Dehra and then to Mussoorie. The author says that he is going at first Dehra, and this is the place. It is a beautiful town in Uttarakhand and it was established by the British, and then he will go to Mussoorie. Mussoorie is also a famous hill station in Dehradun district. As soon as the girl hears the name of the place, Mussoorie, she begins to talk spontaneously. Oh, how lucky you are. he exclaims that the narrator is a very lucky person or lucky or fortunate person. I wish I were going to Mussoorie. She wishes that she had a wish to go to Mussoorie. I were, mark the term, the use of the verb were after I. After I, this verb were is used if someone expresses a wish, a strong wish, or might be the wish which remains almost for him or her never attainable. Then she says, why does always she love to go to Mussoorie? Because I love the hills, especially in October. She likes the small tillers or hills of Mussoorie, especially in the month of October. Yes, this is the best time, I said, calling on my memories. Then the author says that yes, it is the best time, that means October. The month of October is the best time to see Mussoorie with all her natural beauty. How does a complete blind person can become aware of or can know the natural beauty of a place? Here is the answer. The author says, calling on my memories, calling on, that means remembering my memories, my earlier experiences. This part of the sentence also informs or gives an idea to us that the author was earlier might not be totally blind. Probably he had earlier eyesight, but anyhow he has lost his eyesight in the time when he met the girl on the train. Now the author gives the reasons for the beauty of Mussoorie in October. The hills are covered with wild dahlias. Now the hills are covered with wild dahlias. Dahlias are big-sized flowers with bright color, and they're wild. Wild means they have grown naturally on the landscape. The sun is delicious food. But how the sun can be delicious? Yes, the scorching heat of the sun is then remains no more in October in Mussoorie. So the sun rays seems quite comfortable, and so the author uses the term delicious. And at night you can see it in front of a log fire. It is a very common sight in a cold country or in a cold region. There, the log fire or the fire which is made out of log, sometimes inside the house or sometimes outdoors at night, for getting heat, to get relief from the coldness. So the author says, and at night you can sit in front of a log fire, in front of or before a log fire, and drink a little brandy, and then you can enjoy the time by drinking little brandy. What is brandy? Brandy is a fermented drink which is generally made from the fruit juice. Most of the tourists have gone. You know, October is a time, September, October is a time when the tourists come to visit the beauty of Mussoorie. But in October, they already leave Mussoorie, and the roads are quiet, and so for the absence of the tourists, the road become quiet or peaceful and almost deserted, almost free from congested crowd. Yes, October is the best time. Students, this sentence, yes, this is the best time, this sentence is, I think, is important for your exam, because there may come question from this on the basis on this line. The question may be asked in this way: who asked this question, to whom, when, where, and why. So you should remember this part of the story very clear in your mind. She was silent. Now the girl remained mummed, or talked nothing, told nothing. Then the author thinks, I wondered if my words had touched her. I surprised if my words had touched her, or the description of the beauty and the facts of Mussoorie during October have worked upon the girl, and she has engaged in herself to look at the beauty of Mussoorie in her mind's eye. Or whether she thought me a romantic fool, but the effect may be anything else. The girl may be a practical one, and she might think that the author is an imaginative fool, or an imaginative person, or a person full of fantasy. After thinking these matters about the girl, the author asked another question, and he now thinks that then he made a mistake. So he says, then I made a mistake. Mistake? Read the next part of the text. What is it like outside? I asked. He asked how it looks outside of the train through the window. What a question. Two persons are sitting face to face, and they have already engaged in some conversation, and one person is asking another, what are you looking outside? No, it does never happen. So the author thinks that he has made a mistake. And after just asking this question, the author observes the girl with his intuitive power. And what does he find? She seemed to find nothing strange in the question. She also finds no strange or surprising in this question. Why? The author thinks, had she noticed already that I could not see? Whether the girl has already seen that, or noticed that he is blind? Now, this is an example of situational irony in the text. The author thinks that the girl is with normal eyesight. So, he thinks that the girl has already understood about his blindness. But the girl is blind too. So, the girl has not marked anything strange and anything doubtful about the author. She becomes rather quite nervous, and it is now her part to pretend or to conceal her own blindness from her co-passenger. So the girl knows nothing strange in the earlier question. And for this reason, the author says, but her next question removed my doubts. She now asks another question to the author, and this question removed or cleared the doubts of the author. What does he ask? Why don't you look out of the window? She asked. She asked, why you can yourself look out of the window and can see what does it look in the outside? Now the author moved easily along the path and felt for the window ledge. So the author moved easily, got up from his seat and easily or comfortably beside the path he walked and wanted to feel or wanted to touch or wanted to reach for to the window ledge or the projection which is generally kept before the window. And so for what reason? Because now the author wants to act before the girl as if he wants to go before the window and to look from the window the outside beauty of their remaining way. He then felt the window was open. As natural in the daytime, the window remains open, and I faced it. The author faced it. That means he looked face to face to the window, making a pretense of studying the landscape. Why he faced the window? He makes a false show or pretense of studying or seeing the landscape or normal natural sights of the place. I heard the panting of the engine. Then the author heard the clanking sound of the engine, the rumble of the wheels. What is rumble? Deep, low, continuous sound of the wheels. And in my mind's eye, I could see the telegraph posts flashing by. And in his mind's eye again, he sees that the telegraph posts are passing with a great speed. Students, this is very common while we move to some place by train, and if we look throughout our journey from the window, we can see the lampposts and the fields, trees, everything are running in the great speed. Have you noticed? I ventured that the trees seem to be moving while we seem to be standing still. It is very common in our train journey that. Have you noticed? Have you remarked? I ventured. The author said that he took the risk that the trees seem to be moving. The trees seem to be moving while or moving or running while the passengers appear to be or seem to be standing still or standing fixed. That always happens, she said. Do you see animals? The girl now says, it is very common matter. Then he asks another question. Do you see animals? Now, another answer, and it is also of another pretense for the author. He says, no, I answered quite confidently. The author said that with confidence, with strong belief or with confidence that there is no animal in the outside. I knew that there were hardly any animals left in the forests near there. The author says he knew that, it is informed to him that there were hardly has a negative sense, and it means there were no any animals left or remained in the forests near Dehra. Here, Ruskin Bond gives an idea for the extinction or the depletion of animals day by day in the forests of Dehra. Earlier, there were found various types of animals in the forests, but due to the depletion of animals, now there are found hardly any animals in the forests of Dehra. So, the author says, I knew that there were hardly any animals left in the forests of Dehra. I turned from the window and faced the girl. Now the author turned from or turned back his face from the window and faced the girl, or looked directly or looked face to the girl. And for a while we sat in silence, and for a while both of them talked nothing or remained mumbled. Then again the author started to talk. You have an interesting face, I remarked. The author remarked or made a remark to the girl that the girl has an interesting face. What is the meaning of interesting? Interesting means both mysterious and exciting. Now look at one thing. The author said earlier that it will take for him some time to know about the appearance of the girl. And now the author gives almost by using this term interesting face that he has at least assumed about the appearance of the girl. I was becoming quite daring, quite desperate to talk, but it was a safe remark, safe for the author to describe an unknown girl by using the term interesting. Why safe remark? Generally, it is taken as a dishonor or as an insult by an woman or a girl or a lady to be praised for their physical appearances. So, the author described the face of the girl not in terms of beauty, but in terms of interesting. Why does he do so? He says, few girls can resist flattery. Flattery means here praise. Few girls can resist or can check or can remain passive being praised by others. And this girl is of no exception. So by hearing such comment about her, she laughed pleasantly, a clear, ringing laughter. Then the girl laughed pleasantly or charmingly or sweetly. And how was her laughter? A clear, a laudable, ringing laugh, ringing or continuous laugh. It is nice to be told I have an interesting face. I am tired of people telling me I have a pretty face. The girl says that it seems to her very nice, to be very beautiful, to be told by the author that she has an interesting face. And this is a new adjective for the girl for her appearance. Actually, this girl is conscious of her physical beauty, and so she becomes interested also about the author. And so he says, or so she says in a confession to the author that she is tired of people telling her she has a pretty or a beautiful face. Oh, now the author thinks, oh, so you do have a pretty face, thought I. And aloud I said, and then the author said to the girl, well, an interesting face can also be pretty. Yes, an interesting face can be a pretty face. Then the girl also gave an adjective for describing the young man. You are a very gallant young man, she said. She said, that the narrator was a very gallant or courageous young man. But why are you so serious? Then she also asks another question. Why does her co-passenger always remain so grave or thoughtful? Here you can see, even the girl who is also blind, she can comprehend or she can see about the nature of another blind man who is also continuous in conversation to the girl. And why does this person is so serious? The author tells us that. I thought then the author thought that I would try to laugh for her. He wants to try to laugh for the girl. But the thought of laughter only made me feel troubled and lonely. But whenever he wants to laugh, then this thought makes him feel uneasy or troubled and lonely or very solitary in feeling. Why? The pain of his blindness made him such a serious and lonely person. Here the narrator becomes melancholic for his physical inability. So, he does not laugh and he changes the topic. He says, "We shall soon be at your station." I said, the author said, they will soon be at the station or at the destination of the girl, which is Saharanpur. Thank goodness, it is a short journey. Then and then the girl replied, thank goodness. It is an idiomatic expression and it is used for expressing relief. Why she thanks goodness? Because her journey was a short one and she likes short journey, not a long journey by train. She says, I can't bear to sit in a train for more than 2 or 3 hours. She says that she cannot tolerate or bear to sit in a train or to remain be seated in a train for more than 2 or 3 hours. Yet I was prepared to sit there for almost any length of time just to listen to her talking. The author says he was prepared or made himself ready to sit there or to sit in a train compartment for almost any length of time, for any long span of time more than 3 hours or 4 hours without any boredom, only if there remains the girl to talk with him. He says just to listen. He can just listen to her talking, what the girl says to him. Why? Her voice had the sparkle of a mountain stream. The voice of the girl seems or appears to the author as a mountain stream. Here, Ruskin Bond uses a beautiful metaphor to compare the voice of the girl to a mountain stream. Her voice had the sparkle or liveliness of a mountain stream or river, a small river that flows down from the mountain. As soon as she left the train, she would forget our brief counter. Of course, the author knows that as soon as the girl will leave the train, she would certainly forget their brief encounter on the train. That means her encounter or conversation to the narrator author. But it would stay with me for the rest of the journey. But the author says this encounter would stay with him for the rest of his journey in the train, and for this reason he will not feel any loneliness. The author also thinks that the impression of his meeting to the girl may remain for some time after his reaching to the destination. His encounter to the girl will certainly remain. The engine's whistle shrieked. The engine's whistle shrieked means made high-pitched sound as the station is nearing by. The carriage wheels changed their sound and rhythm. Now, mark the students. Though the narrator author is blind, yet he can comprehend that the station is approaching. How? On the basis of his hearing power, as he feels that the sound of carriage and the rhythm of the wheel have changed for the lack of speed. So the station is approaching. Then what happened? As the station came and the train stands on the station or on the platform, the girl got up or stood up. The girl stood up and began to collect her things and began to manage her things or her luggage, which she has brought with her. I wondered if she wore her hair in bun or if it was plaited. Perhaps it was hanging loose over her shoulders, or was it cut very short? In this sentence, the author becomes quite imaginative, as he wants to know about the appearance of the girl. As the girl arrived in the first, then the narrator author told us that he will be aware of the appearance of the girl after some time, and now to get a complete picture of the girl, he wants to know about the pattern of her hair. So he imagines or makes a fantasy about her hair. He tells us, I wondered or I became puzzled about thinking if she wore her hair in bun. If she wore or if the girl kept her hair in bun. Bun is a hairstyle in which hair is tightly coiled and knotted at the back head. Or if it was plaited. Plaited is another hairstyle in which the hairs are divided into three parts and each part is crossed over each other in a special pattern. Then the author says, perhaps it was hanging loose over her shoulders, or it might be that the girl had left her hair over her shoulders without any knotting on her hair. Or was it cut very short, or had the girl very short hair? The train drew slowly into the station. Now the station has appeared. Outside, and what happens in a railway station? Outside there was the shouting of porters and vendors and a high-pitched female voice near the carriage door. That voice must have belonged to the girl's aunt. Outside in the station, outside from the rail compartment, What happens? This blind person again can notice only on the basis of his hearing power. Here we again find that though he is a blind man, yet he can comprehend everything what is happening around him on the basis of his remaining sense organs. For this reason, the persons who are blind are not now told as handicapped. Rather, they are told they are specially abled. And Ruskin Bond has shown this very much in every chance that they are specially abled. For this reason, the blind man can comprehend that and can narrate us what was happening on the railway platform. What were happening there? There was the shouting of porters or coolies, and vendors. Vendors are the salesmen or saleswomen, and a high-pitched female voice, loud-pitched, shrill-sounded voice, high, loud and shrill-sounded voice of a female near the carriage door. Carriage door means near the door of their compartment can be heard. Then the author assumes that that voice must have belonged to the girl's aunt. That voice certainly be of the girl's aunt to whom she has came here to meet at Saharanpur. Goodbye, the girl said. The girl finally bade the narrator goodbye. She was standing very close to me. When the girl was almost to get off from the carriage, then she was standing very close to the author. So close that the perfume from her hair was tantalizing. The girl then came so close to the narrator author that the scent of the perfume, a kind of perfume from her hair, made the narrator author to feel a desire to have or to do something. That means made him excited. I wanted to raise my hand. So what did he want to do then? He wanted to raise his hand and touch her hair. Why he wanted to touch her hair? Because he wanted to know, that means he wanted to complete the picture of the girl in his mind's eye. And for this reason, he just wanted to know how was the hair to complete the picture. But she moved away. But at that moment, the girl got down or went away. Only the scent of the perfume still lingered where she had stood. Only what remained? There remained only the scent of perfume still lingered or stayed in that place for a long time where the girl had stood. There was some confusion in the doorway. As soon as the girl went from that place, the narrator author also felt that there was a puzzlement or disorder at the doorway of the compartment. But what happened, he was not sure. What he can only comprehend then? A man getting into the compartment. Then a male person appeared in that compartment. And that person did what? Stammered and apologized. Stammered means faltered and apology. Apology means forgiveness. Almost like that male person say, I am, that is stammering. I am sorry. I am sorry. That is narrated by the author, stammered and apology. Then the door banged or door was closed and the world was shut out again. Here the world refers to the happenings on the railway platform was shut again from the eyes or from the hearing of the author. Then the author I returned to my bath. Then the author came back to his seat in the bath where he was sitting. The guard blew his whistle as it is common. Before leaving the station, the guard who remains at the last compartment of a train blows whistle, and then the train starts to leave the station. Here happens the same thing, and we moved off and we started to go with the train. Once again I had a game to play and a new fellow traveler. Now the narrator author says that as there has came another co-passenger, and now the author has to start again a game. Here the game refers his effort to conceal or to hide his blindness. Now think that it is very important for you to notice that though he is blind, yet he does not think his blindness as an obstacle. He rather enjoys it. So to pretend himself as a person with normal eyesight before others appears to him as a game. Now the question is, why should he pretend before others? I have told you earlier, in then time, the persons who are devoid of eyesight or hearing power, they are neglected in the society. They are laughed at by the others in the society. So this person was forced to make such pretendences. The train gathered speed. The train has already gathered speed. The wheels took up their song, a rhythmic sound, which he once told earlier about the sound of the engine and wheels, like panting of engine, the rumbling of wheels. This is referred again as the song of the rhythm, song of the wheels and engine. The carriage groaned and shook, and then the carriage, that means the entire train, also their compartment, started to make harsh sound or groaned. Groaned means started to make harsh sound and shook, and they start to jerk. The carriage started to jerk. I found the window. His his false show he has started his false show. He looked at the window as if to see the outside beauty, and sat in front of it, staring into daylight. Staring into the daylight. Staring, that means looking fixedly at the daylight. But the daylight only appears to him that was darkness for me, only as the very dim light, and it is almost like darkness. So many things were happening outside the window. It could be a fascinating game. Now, fascinating means interesting or captivating game, guessing what went on out there. Our narrator author is very intellectual and imaginative. He cannot see now, but he had earlier experiences of seeing from the train what are found from the train window at the outside sceneries. So he has just started by remembering his earlier memories, what he was passing by, what he was
passing by, and it seems to him almost like a guessing game. He is very much spirited, though he is blind. Though he is blind, he has no eyesight, yet he has inner eyesight, and this is to be marked here, his spirit. The man who had entered the compartment broke my reverie. Reverie means daydream or fantasy, but here the reverie actually refers to the narrator's game of guessing what can be seen in the outside of the train from the window. Is not it? You must be disappointed, he said. That means the third character. He said, you must be disappointed, or you must not be happy. I am not nearly as attractive a traveling companion as the one who just left. This co-passenger says to the narrator author, he is not as attractive or as beautiful a traveling companion as that person who just left the train compartment. So here is another adjective referring to the beauty of the girl. She was attractive. Earlier it is told to us that she was pretty and interesting, and she is also an attractive girl. Then the narrator author says, she was an interesting girl, I said. The narrator said to his co-passenger now, she was an interesting girl. Can you tell me, did she keep her hair long or short? Now the author wants to know about the hairstyle of that girl and wanted to know from him whether his hair was long or short. Then that person said, I do not remember. He said, sounding puzzled or with confusion. He says he cannot remember. He said, it was her eyes, I noticed. But I noticed her eyes, not her hair. He had not noticed her hair. She had beautiful eyes, but they were of no use to her. But these eyes are of no use to that girl. She was completely blind. That girl was completely blind. Did not you notice? Have not you noticed? Here now the author becomes the victim of irony. So long the narrator author make pretense or false shows before the girl to hide his blindness. But what is now discovered, that the girl herself was blind. Here is the irony of the story, which has come at the closing part of the story. You should notice one thing. Here the role of the third character is almost like the society. Though the girl had beautiful hair or a beautiful or pretty girl, yet the passenger only noticed that she is blind. She had only noticed her eyes. This happens in society. Though the persons who are blind, they have different capabilities and other abilities or good qualities, but the society does not give importance to it. They term them only as disabled persons. But the message of the author is to sympathize with those persons.